What I wanted to talk to you today about was using milestones to save a project. And I wanted to talk about a particular project of mine and how I've started using milestones, or how I started using milestones to manage projects better. I think about project management as a communication of information among team members, between the project manager and team members and the customer, managing the project schedule, managing all the detailed tasks associated with it. And that's great, that's enough for a perfect project. But we know perfect projects just don't happen very often. More projects fail than succeed. I'm a baseball fan. I think of 137 years of Major League Baseball, there's been 23 perfect games out of approximately 205,000 games. That's a little over 0.01% of games end in a pitcher with no runs, no hits, no errors, no walks, no hit batters, nothing. No batters reaching base, 27 up, 27 down. And I gotta think that projects probably become perfect projects just about as often as that. No issues, no errors, no overruns in budget or resource allocation or risks or anything happening, just straight through. So it just doesn't happen, we know that. And as far as milestones allow you to set individual goals within the project. And I think about in my earlier days of project management, it was very easy to just put together a schedule and manage those tasks, and think about keeping the team and the project on task along the way, managing to those tasks and the progress. But this one government project I was managing, we kept winning the contract, and the government was adding new functionality to the project every time we won it, and finally I was left with a project schedule that was over 9,000 tasks. It was crazy, and I not only had a project team, but I had a staff to manage the project schedule with me and to the change orders associated with it. And I finally wised up and looked to the functional area managers within the organization, and gave them responsibility for chunks of the project schedule, basically mini projects. And they and their staff were responsible for keeping those up to date. But I also incorporated milestones within the project schedule to break that unmanageable schedule and that unmanageable project into mini projects, so we could realize a series of successes along the way, like requirements definition, which is huge. Requirements are the lifeblood of the project. And a requirements traceability matrix, which is important to you and your team and the development staff going forward for design and construction, so they can trace requirements back and make sure that they're in there, to the user acceptance team coming back and testing against those requirements. So things like that, major deliverables, can become huge milestones in the project, and you can track those to completion and say, hey, we're done, and that's complete, and that's a success. And by incorporating those things, and user acceptance test is another huge milestone on nearly every project. Deployment, of course, is a milestone. But if you break a project into 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 milestones, depending on how large it is, but make it into like mini projects that you succeed at those milestones, you get sign off, maybe celebrate, whatever, acknowledge great team efforts, and move forward to the next phase, on to the next milestone. You can manage the project more successfully, rather than trying to look at the big picture all the time and managing these little tasks that are part of this huge 9,000 project task schedule, big picture, which is just impossible to manage. Now, I'm not saying every project's 9,000 tasks. I know they aren't. But you can do this, use this concept of milestone management on every project. And many of you probably are. Some of you it might be new to. But it's a good way to break a project up into successful little points that are much easier to manage too. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. It's a life experience for me that brought me to realization that that's what I needed to do to move forward, and not try to make this every project just one large entity. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks.